Hello, and thank you for tuning in to the Stuff I Heard podcast. I'm your host, Joshua Peak. Um, we are getting to the end of March 2022, and we're still watching Russia try to invade the Ukraine. Um, the world right now is also, um, not the world, us, the US. We're paying attention to the fact that the drummer for the Foo Fighters, Taylor Hawkins, passed away at 50 years old. Um, why is that a big deal? Well, for me personally, I am a fan of 90s grunge music. When I was in high school, um, I didn't really care for music that was popular at the time. Like everything seemed too synthesized, too manufactured, too bubblegum pop. Um, I needed music that replicated what I was feeling at the time. And for me personally, as a youth, as a somewhat angry youth, I was angry about a lot of things. I was angry that life wasn't seeming to work as I thought it should. I was angry because I had a volatile relationship with my stepfather. Um, I was angry because I was unsure of what the world was going to allow me to do. Um, at the time, there was a lot of emphasis based upon following along in the footsteps of what everyone told you to do, which was make good grades, show up, sit straight, do your homework, make straight A's, try to get a degree, go to college, do something. That was the whole thing, do something. And I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I was angry about that too. And a lot of it was misguided anger. A lot of it was just too much testosterone. As a young boy, you go through transition as you're transitioning into being a man. And sometimes testosterone makes all your decisions. You're sort of like a shark with your eyes rolled black, and you're just after just whatever, whatever's aggression is telling you to do, you tend to follow. And, I was listening to some radio, some satellite radio this past week. And it was best of the 90s. And downtown Julie Brown was talking about these are the top hits of 91. And as she's going through them, I'm going, I don't know any of this music. I don't think I listened to a single song that she's telling us. I graduated in 92. And for me, music sucked for the most part. I did have the blessing of a stepdad who was really into music. He was sort of a music nerd, and he kept a collection of records. And when music changed over to become CDs, he basically just passed those records over and was like, here, you can listen to these. And so I had this nice radio thing that he had gotten me, all in fairness. It was hand me down stuff, but still, it was really cool. I could play records and I could record music from those records. And I recorded a lot of 70s rock music onto tapes. And that's what me and my friends listened to, with the exception of like Guns N' Roses. Guns N' Roses really hit a blaze about 89. And that's when I made friends with my buddy Greg. And then we got really into listening to the 500 records that I suddenly had in my possession. And it was like finding a treasure. It was like uncovering things that you had no idea what it was. It might be some cool artwork on the outside of the album, and then you go to put it on, and you're going, there might be one or two good songs on here. But sometimes you uncover something that's just got a plain front, and then it's got really cool music. Sometimes you listen to some really odd stuff, and you're like, I don't know why, but I like this. That happened for me for bands like Jethro Tull. I just said that backwards. God, dyslexia. Jethro Tull. Or some of the Kansas stuff that I was like, I only know Dust in the Wind, but this other stuff's pretty cool too. Or Styx. You come across stuff. Edgar Winter Group, Thin Lizzy, Leonard Skinnard, Buffalo Springfield, Crosby, Stills and Nash, The Doors, Pink Floyd, all of the Pink Floyds. I mean, he had a good taste in music, and it was good. Um, but again, popular music was terrible. And then Christmas of 91, going into 92, um, Nirvana hit. Nirvana came out with Nevermind. And I remember I was working part-time at McDonald's after work. It's McDonald's or Winn Dixie or something like that. I was working as a bagger and a stocker at the grocery store, and then I was flipping burgers or taking money at the McDonald's. And I got home after work one night and I turned on TV, and MTV back then had music on television. And Matt Pinfield was doing a special they called 120 minutes of alternative music. Hey fans, welcome to MTV. Blah. He do his little speech, and right away he kicks off with Nirvana, "Smells Like Teen Spirit." And I remember being in my bedroom and watching it and thinking, how loud can I turn this without waking up everybody in the house? Because this is the coolest thing I've ever heard. And it was life changing. It was energy. It was angst. It was you got to think this was the time period where we just come off the 80s where everything was about excess. And then we started rolling into the 90s where the AIDS epidemic was a big deal. And suddenly it was like, no, 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 no excess. Like everything can kill you. Suddenly it went from party, party, party to don't party because you do anything wrong and you're going to die. I mean, literally, that we watched, I don't know how many videos about if you have sex with someone, you've had sex with everyone they've had sex with, and you're going to die. Like everything was about dying. You're going to die. You're going to die. You're going to die. So suddenly we had a lot of pent up anger and aggression and frustration and no outlet. So some interesting music came out of that. Nine Inch Nails came out of that. Pearl Jam, Stone Temple Pilots, Soundgarden. I mean, really interesting, cool music. The Smashing Pumpkins. And it was all like you can hear how music changed during that time. It was all about the fact that we were all frustrated and we were all angry and we were all trying to figure it out and nobody seemed to have any answers. And the music emulated that. And so for me, like I bonded with these bands and they became my bands. And I weirdly became, I guess, in style because my clothes were already torn at the knees because I had a brother who was 12 years younger than me. And, you got to figure I was chasing him around the house trying to play with him and, on my hands and knees while he's running at full clip. And I tore up the knees in my jeans from it. And I'd go to school and everybody one day was like, "Oh, you got holes in your jeans. You must be poor." And then suddenly you're like, "Oh, you got the coolest clothes." And I'm like, "Wait, what? What just happened?" I didn't change clothes. Like I'm still wearing the same stuff I was wearing before this became a fad. And I had a flannel shirt that belonged to my dad when he was my age at the time that my mom had somehow hung onto or he gave to me or something. And I wore that often just because it was super comfortable and it fit and it looked nice. It made my eyes look pretty because I had a bluish tone in the background and it was flannel. And I just liked the shirt. And I guess somewhere along the way, I didn't become cool, but fashion sort of emulated what the cool kids were wearing, and it was what I was wearing. So I don't know, something weird happened there. It also became the time where, for me, I started dating. I had a girlfriend. I had kind of a regular girlfriend, and it was pretty cool. Um, but the music was the background of my friendship with me and my closest friends. I mean, we would play it as loud as we could in the vehicles going down the road, and Nirvana was at the heart of that. And in Nirvana, Dave Grohl was the drummer. Um, they were loud, and it seemed like Kurt Cobain's vocals were off the hinge, and that he would push past whatever normal ranges of people to be able to sing was doing. I sort of equate it to you'll hear a singer sometimes just like there's a range most people can hit. And then you have like a handful of people that go, "Oh yeah, well I'll just blow past all of this." And they may ruin their voice in the process, but it's unmistakable their talent when they do it. It is one of those things that literally some of the top singers in the world stop what they're doing and go, "Holy crap, did you hear what they just did? Man, that's amazing." And Kurt Cobain had one of those types of voices where even in the gravelly destroyedness of it, there was a beauty in it for me. And I think other people felt the same way. It wasn't just the lyrics of the songs they were singing; it was also in the power of the drums that Dave Grohl was just annihilating drum sets on, um, playing each song. And when Kurt passed away, the band, of course, died off, and Dave Grohl decided to start another band called the Foo Fighters. And their drummer, Taylor Hawkins, was very much like Dave Grohl. Um, had a lot of power in the way he played the drums, and a lot of freedom, and a lot of happiness, and a lot of joy. But with that, also, like, he understood the backbone of what their songs were going to be. And he's world renowned and world known, and world awarded for his drumming ability. And I had heard Dave Grohl talk on podcasts about the fact that sometimes they would go really hard one night, and he would lose his voice. And he said the cool thing is Taylor could step in and do the vocals and be able to hit the same notes. And he goes, and Dave's like, and I'm an okay drummer, so I could step in and do. I always thought it was funny how he's like, I'm an okay drummer. Yeah, okay, yeah, you're an okay drummer. You're, I mean, upper echelon top drummers in the world, but sure, you're an okay drummer, I guess, compared to Taylor. But they would swap off, and Taylor would sing, and if you heard them, you would be like, "You sure that's not Dave Grohl?" I mean, it was pretty good. It's pretty fantastic. So Taylor passed away, and I'm looking on the internet just now. This is March 27th, 2022. As of right now, they're saying that I guess autopsy results showed that he had multiple drugs in his system. So maybe there was a drug overdose of some kind, or a mixing of drugs that caused this to happen, or possibly something to do with fentanyl. I mean, we hear about fentanyl being laced with all sorts of things lately that are making people sick and dying, not intentionally. It is something that some people are just doing. Um, not the people using them, the people giving them. And to me, it's just another. I mean, I don't know if that's the case. I don't know. I don't know the situation. I'm on the outside looking in. All I know is we lost a tremendous musical talent and a heck of a musician. And I mean, we talk on this podcast a lot about mental health. I have, Kelvin on to talk about mental health, and I talk to other people who are dealing with mental health issues. And I guess part of that is the fact that I too deal with mental health issues, as whether you want to admit it or not, we all are in our own special ways. Whether we decide to, have a bunch of drinks on the weekend and numb the pain, or we decide to distract ourselves with hobbies, whether it's fishing or cooking or hunting or whatever, fixing things, whatever the thing is that keeps us from going crazy, we're all dealing with our own mental health issues, right? And you just hope that, I guess, somewhere along the way that some of your hobbies are seen as healthy. I know I do. Um, I don't know if they are, but I hope they are. And your hobbies change over time. And I don't know. I guess the whole point of this is, like, if you think you're the only one struggling with anything, you're not. If you think you're the only one that's dealing with issues, you're not. And sometimes the people who are closest to you are fighting things that you can't see, they don't want to talk about, and they can't even articulate if they had to. And so sometimes it's hard to find an answer. I don't know. I don't have any answer on that. I don't have any answers. All I know is that if you need to talk to someone professionally, it's not a bad idea. It can help. Um, I listen to, the Burtcast and Two Bears, One Cave, and they have some kind of special code for betterhealth.com or mental health, something like that. I think it's called betterhealth.com. And you can save like 10% on that. And I know Kelvin has said that there's a lot of counselors that will work out a financial plan for you that works for you. They may be able to see you at a discount or possibly even pro bono, depending on their tax situation and what they can do. But it never hurts to ask. So, rest in peace, Taylor. Um, you're quite the musician, and I really enjoyed hearing you play. And you know, it's sad. So, um, the stuff going on with Russia and Ukraine, I don't know how that's going to turn out. I don't know. I don't know anything about it right now. I have not seen much about the news this week. I've been busy with other things. My wife's father just celebrated his 79th birthday. Happy birthday, Sammy. My dad's birthday is coming up tomorrow. Happy birthday, Dad. Um, I wish I could come and see you, but it's a Monday and I got to go to work. But we're going to get together and do some stuff pretty soon. The weather's starting to change. I got some free time opening up pretty soon, so we'll see what happens. I do want to talk about this is stuff I heard, so let's talk about some stuff I heard. I do want to talk about Dan Cummins' Timesuck. It's a podcast. It's really enjoyable, really educational, humorous along the way too. I'm listening to a podcast right now of him doing an interview, not an interview, doing a podcast about Dr. Kevorkian, the Doctor of Death. Back when I was a young man out of high school trying to go to college, I took some public speaking classes, and part of that, I had a class where we had to debate an issue. During that public speaking class, we were looking at current events, and one of the current events was Dr. Kevorkian in the news talking about the right to die, about helping elderly patients or people with terminal illnesses choose to take their own life. So he was sort of assisting in a medical suicide in a way. And it was all over the news, and it was a big topic amongst people talking about, whether suicide was good or bad, and when is it helpful, when is it alleviating the patient from suffering. The whole idea of a doctor is taking the Hippocratic Oath to do no harm, but sometimes just keeping a patient alive just to keep them alive is doing them more harm than good. And for the public speaking class, I was given the task of debating for the right to die. Now, I had to do some research, and in that process, I also had a grandmother who was a very close relative to me, my mom's mom. I called her my Nana. My Nana was very close to me, and my memories of her all were pivoted on cigarettes and cancer. My first memory that I have of her is visiting her in the hospital. We've seen her in the hospital a lot. I was around when she got cancer and it got worse, and when she lost lungs, and when she eventually had the hole in her neck to breathe out of, and still smoked out of the hole in her neck. And the cancer took her tongue, and then it invaded her brain, and it was awful. And I remember my mom being a healthcare professional, going to school to be a nurse practitioner at the time, and her thinking there's got to be something more we could do. Every step of the way, it was there's got to be something more we can do. And every step of the way, my grandmother would still smoke at every opportunity she got. And she passed away pretty young. But I remember her going through this, and I remember this class, and I remember debating on this issue in my own mind of the right to die. Like, if this was an option for her, would she have Would she have told Dr. Kevorkian, hey, listen, I'm suffering. My family's had enough of this. I'm done. Would she have said, I want to go. I want to go on my own terms. Now, it's interesting because my granddaddy Peak sort of did that. Um, he worked in a mattress factory for years and got all sorts of fibers into his lungs back before they had regulations of these sort of things. And they hardened and calcified in his lungs, and it got it to where he couldn't hardly breathe. It's harder for him to catch his breath. They actually cracked his chest open to look inside to see if there was anything they could do. After that, they pretty much told him, no, there's not. And I remember a moment where he asked us all to come visit. I had two kids at the time. It was just me and the boys. We drove to visit, and he took time to look me in the eye and tell me he was proud of me and he loved me and he was going to miss me. And I knew at that moment what he was saying. I knew at that moment he was saying, this will be the last time you see me. And he passed away shortly after that. My granny sort of told me later, she says, I think that nurse helped him pass away. I said, yeah, I kind of hope so. Because he was pretty miserable. And I remember thinking how brave of him to do that. And so this podcast of hearing Dan Cummins talk about Dr. Kevorkian and the crazy, stuff that he did or was into and how he came to these decisions and how he tried to justify some things and it did cause an interesting debate at the time and it was an interesting conversation. And I've seen how it affected my life. And I don't know, this podcast just brought all that back up and it made me think about it all again. It was very interesting. I think Dan Cummins does a great job. I think he's got a great group of people behind him that helps him do research. It's very well thought out. He argues all the points very evenly. He does find a way to throw in jokes here and there so that it's not so heavy. But I'm really impressed by the job that he does. All right, let's switch gears a little bit. Let's talk about the morning show. The morning show is on Apple Plus. And I know a lot of people don't have Apple Plus. We sort of ended up with it by upgrading our phones. They gave us some free time. And now that we're paying for it, I think it's like $5 and something a month. And honestly, it's not bad. There's not a lot of stuff I want to watch on there. We did enjoy Ted Lasso, and there's been a few movies that have been pretty decent. But here we got the morning show, which is cast with Reese Witherspoon, Jennifer Aniston, and Billy Crudup. And right away, I didn't know if I would like it just because of the cast. I watched Jennifer Aniston on Friends, and I've seen Reese Witherspoon do a lot of things, but I didn't know if it'd be something I'd be interested in. I didn't know anything about the premise of the show. They were supposed to be portraying some people on a morning show. That's all I knew. And I was like, well, I keep hearing more and more stuff about this because season 2 had come out. And I was like, I keep hearing more and more about this. And people are talking about what a great job Jennifer Aniston did on the show. And I'm thinking, Rachel from Friends, I'm like, really? Because I've seen her act in a lot of things, and I've not really seen her act. I've seen her be Jennifer on other shows. But I got to tell you, this may be her best acting ever. I don't know if it's her age. I don't know if it's all the years of doing it. I don't know if it's the character and the story that got her into this to the level that it has. But it is truly a mastery of acting, um, playing this character. I talked briefly about it before, about watching it, and the first season is basically about the time period where the Me Too movement started. Um, suddenly everybody was coming out saying that they had been sexually harassed at work, and people were being named. And Matt Lauer was a TV broadcaster who was on a morning show, and they basically found a lot of creepy stuff about him. And Steve Carell's in this, another great actor. Steve Carell, most notably, has been shown as a comedic actor, but in this, I mean, he is a good dramatic actor. I mean, he moves the scene so much with simple head movements and expressions. Um, this really is a masterpiece of acting. The story is hard to stomach at times because of the nature of the things that happened. And Martin Short is in this, and Martin Short, I've seen Martin Short in so many movies over the years, and and he's always just been Martin Short. In this, he's a bad guy, and he's very awful. And I mentioned to my wife, I said, as unlikable as he is in this is his best acting I've ever seen him do. This is phenomenal acting. The whole cast in this is very incredible. Um, I highly recommend checking out the morning show. Season two rolls right into more of season one's story, and as it unfolds, this is a fictional depiction of what happened. So they change the story a little bit, and they add to it, and they dramatize it in a way that all has to do with the politics of trying to run a show that has to be put out every day, on top of the stuff that's going on in their personal lives and the stuff that's going on with each character. And, with it, the climate changes of things that are happening in the world. So there's a presidential debate that's going on during this time. And also there's COVID outbreak. So, you know, it's a very good, it's a very good look inside of a part of life that most people don't see. And it's sort of a reflection of what we all deal with by people that are in the top of their game when it comes to acting and storytelling and performance art. And it's just phenomenal to watch. Um, I'm just blown away by everybody's acting ability. I mean, then the writing, geez. There's moments where Steve Carell is just owning the camera by himself with perfect pauses and moments of reflection and misguided anger at times. That's just perfect. there's there's things that are happening in Billy Crudup's life that's just almost like the train leaving the tracks of him trying to keep everything going in the way that's supposed to go, and it just never seems to, and then it does, and then you're watching him trying to hold it together in such a high demand, high stakes situation. And you watch Jennifer Aniston's character, who's basically Katie Couric. um, and I kept telling my wife, I'm like, I am just blown away by how good she is in this. I mean, this is fantastic. Every time Martin Short was on the screen, I hated his character, but he was so good. He was so convincing. It's just being a vile human. It was impressive. Um, so anyway, that's you guys should check it out show. It's pretty good. I'm still watching this thing called Severance on Apple Plus, and I'm still not sold on it. I like the actors in it. Um, the story is still it's not great. But I'm watching it each week. It's very Twilight Zone-ish. Basically, the idea of Severance is these people work for a company. Nobody knows what they do, but it has something to do with they do something in your brain where your home life and your work life can be severed. So when you go to work, you go in an elevator, and whenever you arrive at your floor, you have no idea of the person you are outside of work, and you just do your job. And then when you're done doing your job, you get in this elevator to go home. And when you're at the top of the elevator, they put this thing in your brain and it switches. And when you come off the elevator at the top, you don't remember anything about work and you can just concentrate on home life. So it just goes from there. And so far it's creepy. It's very Black Mirror-ish. Um, I'm not sure if I like it, but I keep watching because it is interesting. Um, I also watched the second season of Raised by Wolves on HBO, mainly because of Travis Fimmel. You guys remember him? He was in Vikings. He was Ragnar Lothbrok. He's a very interesting guy. Like, I don't know what it is about him. He's got the it quality. His look, the way he talks, the way he moves. It's very compelling. I mean, he was made to play Ragnar. He really was. And him in space, this is basically a space show, is Ragnar in space to me. Uh, I'm not in love with the show, but every time he's on the screen, I can't look away from him. He's that good. I mean, he's got the it quality. He's got the star quality. So anyway, I'm watching season 2. It's okay. It's all right. It's a 4 out of 10. But because he's on it, whenever he's on the screen, it shoots up to a 10. I'm a fan. I'm still a fan of Ragnar. God, what a great character. Uh, anyway, I want to give a special shout out, thank you to my friend Danny Shaw. My stepson needed help with something today, and it was something I didn't know anything about. And I thought that he might be able to help. And I just happened to give him a call, and he was at Lowe's and he was headed home. And he was like, I was like, "Could you have a second? Could you stop by here for a second and help me look at something?" And he came by, and he was probably here for 2 hours and helped my stepson do a lot. And I just want to say thank you publicly on here. And if you guys don't know Danny, or if you do know Danny, um, he's a fantastic person and a fantastic friend. And he really went out of his way to help today. And I can't thank him enough. And I guess, through all of that, I kept thinking, this is what you're supposed to do as friends. You're supposed to help each other out. You're supposed to, what do you need? And just help. My stepson kept asking him, what do I owe you? What do I owe you? What do I owe you? And I said, listen, just at some point, he's going to say, hey, I need help, and offer to help. Like, that's all it takes. That's what it's supposed to be about. You're supposed to help each other. That's what I've tried to raise these kids thinking the whole time, all through life. Help when you can. So thank you for the help, Danny. You are truly an awesome guy, and I appreciate the fact that you're my friend. And that's it. I'm going to wrap this up. Thank you to everybody who listens. Thank you to everybody who watches on the YouTube. I am getting the messages now. Sorry, I had such a hard time getting them before. I had something hung up in the website where the emails weren't coming through, but they are now. So thank you. Thank you to everybody who's writing. I am trying to look into doing more stuff with more people. So thank you. I am going to get to you. But yeah, if you want to be on the show, if you want to talk about something, let me know. We can do this through Zoom, where you can be at your house, I can be at my house. It's all cool. Even if you're far away. So let me know, and we'll go from there. Okay. If you haven't yet, please remember to rate, review, and subscribe to the channel. It does help the channel grow. Let other people know about it if you can. Share it, and that's it. Thanks for listening and watching. And until next time, cue the cow.
So I want you guys to give me more likes. Give me more likes!